You guys, co-parenting is a word that brings both delight in the possibility of it and total dismay from how hard it is and how bad it sometimes goes. And I am so excited to have Anna Giannone here today with us. She is an expert in co-parenting. She is a founder and advocate for co-parenting and harmony. And I don't know a word that I love more than harmony being next to co-parenting. She's a child of divorce herself, a bonus mom, stepmom, a co-parent, and a proud grandma. She has over 30 years of helping people navigate their co-parenting experiences. She is a certified master coach practitioner, a certified co-parenting coach, and a certified parent educator. She has 2 internationally best-selling books, part of the Co-Parenting in Harmony series. She's been featured in all kinds of media. Her mission is to remind people that parenthood is forever and that their kids come first. Anna, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. So tell me more. Obviously, you have a family story that's rich with connections to divorce and co-parenting, but tell me what most draws you into this work of helping people co-parent better?
Well, as you said earlier, I come from a divorced family, and growing up was a sad and difficult experience for me. I was confronted with no situation that no child should have had to deal with. I had to pick sides. I had to go to court and pick sides, which parent I would live with. And sadly, neither was the ideal choice, right? And so I felt, I was stuck in the middle of my parents' battle, and I lived and experienced conflict of loyalty. I was so anxious. I felt so scared and betraying my parents. No child wants to betray their parents, no child, right? So I felt so alone, and there was no way I was going to make a good decision, and there was no way I could be a good girl. I was so young. And so then in adulthood, I married and then divorced. And then I met the love of my life, and I married him, and he came with a 3-year-old boy and an ex. And so when I saw this 3-year-old little boy who was so fearful and so anxious, he was my mirror. And so it was important for me to save his mental health. It was important for me to give him unconditional love and to create a stable and safe family environment that was essential to focus on co-parenting harmony. Now, we were all pioneers in this, all 4 of us, all 4 parents. We were all pioneers 33 years ago. And so that's when I gave the voice to my calling. That's when I decided to become our children's voice, to help parents understand what really co-parenting is about, and how to focus on co-parenting and harmony for our children's well-being, for their mental health, physical, emotional, spiritual, and for the parents' peace of mind, so they can move forward in their life as well too.
Absolutely. And you have such an inspired and inspiring story, and your length of time alone, having experienced what it means to co-parent, even in a time before we were really using that word, is amazing. And I know and talk to the same way I do, people who feel like they're failing at co-parenting. And I'm just wondering what encouragement you would offer to those people who feel like we're just not getting it right.
Well, Andrea, you and I both know that parenting already is not easy, right? It's a difficult task already, parenting. So co-parenting as well. However, every day you wake up and you get a second chance to do things better. And, when you don't feel good about yourself. So I tell my clients, stay focused. Remind yourself for who you're doing this for. Stay focused and continue your role as a responsible parent to have your children's backs. Don't give up on your kids. Don't give up on your kids. They need us. Don't get distracted in the storm and the conflict, the resentment, the name blaming. Don't get distracted in that. Your focus is your child. It's your child's well-being. And I tell my clients, you're not each other's enemies. You're both parents. You're both parents to this beautiful child or children, and they need you. You are both their parents. You're not each other's enemies. And I tell them that it's not about the former spouse. It's about the kids. My motto, kids come first. It's about the kids.
I love that, because it really does take the focus off of how do we co-parent, which I think people can get really tangled up in the logistics of, and
Right.
really asking yourself personally, what does it mean for me to really parent well today with the time and energy that I have today, as
Correct. I
opposed to
agree.
get tangled up in the relationship all the time. I love that.
Exactly. It's not about the former spouse. Whatever happened in the past stays in the past. Today, we're parents. We have this beautiful child in front of us. We have to do our best. It's our responsibility to do the best we can to raise this beautiful child into an amazing adult.
Yeah, and your tagline is so appealing, from chaos to harmony. And I know that there are people who are watching and listening to this who are like, I'm in the chaos part. How do I get to the harmony part? And can you give us some ideas around what steps we need to be taking that start to turn down the chaos and start to turn up the harmony? Because I know it's not an overnight thing.
No, it's not an overnight thing. It is work. It does require work, like everything else, like parenting as well. If you and I were married under the same roof, we would have to do this. We would have to work at it as well. So, first of all, I want to remind parents that wounded people wound others. We know that, right? So, and under the anger and the chaos, it's sadness and grief. It's sadness and grief. So divorce is devastating. Okay. And we hold on to what was familiar. We hold on to the past hurt, what was said, the facts, what was said, what was done. We hold on to that. And so that's why co-parenting becomes very hard, or we're struggling to co-parent because we're sticking to what was familiar and what was said. However, my suggestions are how to help parents to move forward. I always say to them, step one, you need to heal your divorce grief. It's about divorce grief, because divorce is devastating. The loss of a spouse partner, probably the love of your life, the loss of your identity as a couple, the loss of your family dreams. I mean, those are big, big steps, right? I mean, not steps, but they're very emotional triggers for oneself. Step number two, I tell them that they need to uncouple. They need to detach from each other. They are no longer spouse partners. You need to change your language. You can't talk to each other like you used to talk to each other before. You can't talk to each other as if he or she still is your husband or wife. It has to change. And also, it's not only to detach physically, but it's to detach emotionally as well. Because physically it's easy, the house, the car, the finances, but it's also emotionally. And the step number three, I always say, shift in mindset, finding new meaning in this new journey. You're no longer compatible as spouse partners. We need to de-dramatize. We need to shift on the rational side of our brain, believe that it will get better, and it does get better. And we all have a choice. We all have a choice to do better. And when we know better, we do better. And I strongly believe that when we're more educated, what is really co-parenting about? How do we really co-parent? Then we can do better. Then we can get onto the path of harmony.
It's like our hearts are beating at the same time, Anna. Thank you for everything you just said. And I particularly want to illuminate loudly for people the part about uncoupling. That is something that we don't talk about a lot in co-parenting. We talk about with, together, and the best co-parents have separated. They've become healthy, single adults. And I love that you're calling that out. And it's really, to me, something that people aren't talking enough about. They're talking more about how do we get back together. And really, the way I describe it, I'm sure you would agree, is it's like you have a house and a co-parenting right away is an attempt to remodel the house, when in actuality, the whole house needs to come down. Correct. And you rebuild a whole new thing that includes different language and new memories and different ways of talking to each other. Exactly like you said. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing. So we're always told to put the kids first. I feel like divorce bystanders, the people who are watching your divorce, are always like, just put the kids first. Like it's the easiest thing to do. These are the same people that say, take the high road, just take the high road. It's not easy to put our kids first, because sometimes putting the kids first means mom needs to go on a weekend vacation with her girlfriends and get some rest. And sometimes putting the kids first means dad needs to be on a call during the soccer game and it looks like he's disengaged, but he's on the call because he's making money, because who's paying for soccer? This call. How do we deal with all the different ways of interpreting how to put the children first?
This is an amazing question. And thank you for asking this, because we get confused of what, some of us become Disneyland parents and we think it's about kids first. No, not really. Let's go back to the basics. I bring them back to the basics. Let's focus on the positive side. To have a healthy behavior towards the mom and dad is putting your child first. To respect the mom and dad in the shared parenting time is putting your child first. Letting go of blaming, letting go of bad mouthing, letting go of courts, restriction orders, using your child as a pawn is putting your child first. Stop annihilating your child from the other parent is putting your child first. Be an active parent in your child's daily life is putting your child first. Making sure that their needs are met. Again, I repeat that, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, is putting your child first. And most importantly, having the willingness to make the impossible possible. Co-parenting in harmony is putting your child first. Is. Now, I'll get back to that. I'll get to the point about the soccer game. Let's focus on the positive. Yeah, the dad or the mom is at the soccer game and on a call. However, the dad and the mom did bring the child to their soccer game. Think about while driving to their soccer game, you had the golden opportunity to speak to your child in the car, because children speak in the car. They love to talk in the car. You had that golden opportunity. Yeah, your mom or dad is at the soccer game on the phone. However, you can still share some beautiful moments. Dad or mom could look up, give thumbs up or smile, share a smile to the child. It's still putting your child first. They're still there. So you need to focus on the good. I mean, it's not perfection. I mean, nobody's perfect, but the best we can do for our kids, that we show up and their eyes light up knowing that you're there. I think it's amazing. So we have to focus on the good. We have to focus on the good.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like to interpret the actions of your child's other parent through a benefit of the doubt lens. How can I attempt to see this as a child first activity as opposed to immediately going to, like in the case of the soccer game, you're disengaged, you don't care, you're not showing up. How can I start to reframe some of the ways that I look at you?
Well, you can just, you mean the parent towards the other parent?
Yeah. I'm just saying that's what we bring is a better question, is not looking at the ways that I can pull you down and misinterpret and sort of give you motives you may not have. Where can I start offering maybe a better story, a more supportive story to what you're doing?
Exactly. We got to focus on the good. I mean, the parent was there. The parent was there. The parent is there as a child. So that is positive. That is a positive thing. So we got to de-dramatize.
Sure.
We can't always focus on the negative. We got to focus on, and it's about baby steps. Andrea, all about baby steps.
Yes, exactly. And so triggers are a huge part of what makes co-parenting hard. He's doing that thing again. She's totally doing that thing again. There's just it's like a zap to the body. And I'm curious to know what you have in mind for people who find themselves getting triggered often by their co-parents.
That's also a very good question, because I tell my clients often, if you're triggered of what he or she is doing or what he or she is saying, you're still in your spouse partner mindset. You're still in the spouse partner mindset. You have not uncoupled emotionally. You're still stuck on your divorce grief. Each parent has a role and responsibility to heal their emotional state, their divorce grief. That has to be done on their own. You have to stay focused. It's not about your former spouse. Again, it's about your child. So I tell my clients, there's 3 types of archetypes that happens naturally. The first one is my lane, how I show up in my lane, okay? The second one is the other person's lane, how they show up in their lane. And what he or she thinks about you is none of your concern, because an opinion is just an opinion. It doesn't make them right. and it doesn't make them wrong. And the third lane is the universal lane, something, whatever is out of your control. You will never be able to control the other parent. You will not be able to control what he or she says about you. It's out of your control. So things that you cannot control, you need to let go. You need to stay focused. Co-parenting is about the child, is about both parents focusing on the child's needs. Now, if you feel triggered, it's because you got to do the work. You haven't done the work. You know, when parents fall apart, kids fall apart. So kids don't like to see their parents fighting because they see 50% of themselves, right? So when they see dad bad-mouthing mom or mom bad-mouthing dad, they feel it within themselves and they don't like themselves. And that's when the self-confidence and self-esteem stems from in the child. So it's very important. If you feel triggered, well, it's because you haven't done the work. You haven't done your divorce grief work. And I help clients to do that.
Yeah, it's really amazing, your description about that, because I think just, again, the word co-parenting, and I don't like to use the word co-parenting that much because of all of the weight that it carries for people when there's so much that is my lane, your lane, God's lane. There's so much of co-parenting that tries to blur the three together. And I love that what you're doing is kind of pulling out each lane and really helping people to focus on the only part that they have control over, which is their own lane. So when I think about being in my own lane, and when I think about my clients being in their own lane, I'm thinking they need to be asking the question, how do I solo parent really well and allow the other person to parent the best they can, even if their parenting is not that impressive? What's your reaction to that?
Well, I strongly believe that both parents need to be involved in their child's life. It's very important. And you know what? Each parent do have different styles of parenting. I mean, it's only normal. We're two different personalities. We come from two different backgrounds, right? And so it's normal that we won't have the same parenting style. I mean, even if you and I were under the same roof, we would have different parenting style as well. So it's very important. If I understand your question, it's very important that both parents need to be involved in their child's life. And it's very important that, you know, kids adapt easily. You know, I always say monkey see, monkey do. So yeah, a mom is going to parent a way and a child and the dad's going to parent another way, but it's okay. I mean, they're going to adapt. I mean, there's so many things out there that kids need to adapt and all that. But I really believe that, and I strongly believe that both parents need to be involved into their parents' life, and it creates a solid security and stable life for them. They feel accepted, they feel loved, and it promotes a lot of, and it creates values, family values, and they know, you know, so later on in life, they will have these family values that they'll be able to carry forward in their own family as well. So it's very important. It's very important that both parents are involved. Now, if I understand correctly, when you talk about the solo parent, like meaning there's the other parent is not involved. Hey, some parents are not just capable of co-parenting. Some parents are not capable of doing the teamwork. It happens, but it's not about the child. It's about the parent not being capable. And I want to quote here Maya Angelou when she said, "My mom was a terrible parent of a young children. Ha! But my mother was a great parent of young adult." So later on, if the parents are not fully involved because they can't cope with this teamwork because they're too emotionally distraught, it's very difficult for them, but they could come around later on in the adult life and become that amazing parent just the same to their children. So I always say it's never too late. It's never too late.
Yeah, and it goes back to, again, letting people be in their own lane. As a co-parent, it's not your job to inform the other co-parent of what they need to do, become, or say. There's no real part of that over which you have a lot of control. Correct. And I just watch people, and I'm sure you do too, watch people get so upset by something that's really never been their business, but because they were married, you do sort of feel like you have a voice, you have an input. You're like, I got a direct highway to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. And whether or not that's useful is a different summit. But the idea of really letting that person be who they're going to be anyway, and start to focus on the strengths of what they bring and not just the limits of what they bring, is, I think, really what you're trying to get after.
Exactly. And we have to stop focusing on the former spouse.
So,
To focus on them. We got to focus on our kids.
right. Yeah. It's brilliant advice. So communication often gets highlighted as one of the most important things when we're talking about co-parenting. But people, when I'm talking to them, they feel like they are communicating. It's the other person who isn't doing it right or receiving it right. And so what's happening when you think you're communicating well, but it's not landing for your co-parent, or you're not getting the results you want from the communication?
Amazing. That's a very good question as well. It depends how you communicate with the other parent. Now, if you're making demands rather than requests, that's not communicating. Okay, that's wanting to control the other parent, because we need to make requests. And requests, what I always tell my clients, you always provide three options when you make requests. And these three options are always child related. And then slowly you will see this communication. It will happen, because communication is about informing the other parent what's going on in your child's life. And also the receiving parent, when you have 50-50 1 week on 1 week, when the receiving parent receives their child, well, at least that parent will be able to pick up where the other parent left off. So both parents do not miss out on anything what's going on in their child's life. So communicating is really about informing the other parent what was going on during that week, the parent that was on duty, to the parent that's receiving, so he or she can pick up where they left off, and they can move forward. And that's how co-parenting is done, is about informing the other parent what went on in their child's life. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
It makes perfect sense. And what I love about it is it's kind of it's almost clinical and detached in ways that are really important, but that don't get talked about that much. I think the news can sort of sensationalize co-parenting and put celebrities out there who are taking walks together and family trips together and all these sort of things where they have this tremendous sense of connection. And as a co-parent, you can feel like, goodness gracious, what are we doing wrong? I can't stand you, and I can't stand much of what you do. And I feel like that's not a goal we need to all be reaching for. The goal we need to be reaching for is, how do we develop a way of communicating, exactly as you said it, that is not demanding but requesting, and is informing. That's a very different way of parenting together than when you were married.
Correct.
Very different. And it really focuses on data and information, and it strips out the opinions and the judgments and the one-liner zingers, which I think is just super hard to do. I mean, this is like adulting plus.
And the most important one, when you're communicating, it's about sticking to facts. You're sticking to facts. And when you're sticking to facts, telling you, Andrea, communication does happen slowly. Both parents start to communicate on a different level, not on a spouse partner level, on a parenting partner's level, business-like relationship.
Exactly. I was just
That's what I tell my clients.
Like a business. And I think that feels so uncomfortable for people, because they think we're sharing the most important thing in my life is this kid, and we're sharing him or her, and I don't like you, and I don't like what you do and don't do. And so there's this feeling of, we need to feel closer in order for me to be able to give you this child and trust you with them. And that is a false reality. And it's so hard, and it's so weird. It's so off the map of what we expect in all of our other relationships. I mean, your co-parent relationship is unlike any other relationship you're going to have in life, right?
Correct. And what I tell my clients is, this is your project, because I teach them business-like relationship. You both have a project. You both have a common project. Forgive me for saying that your child is a project, but you both have a common project. This helps them to detach emotionally. You both have this common project, is to raise this beautiful, resilient, to adjust to this new way of doing things, and to an amazing adult, to not have any consequences later on in life. This is your product. This is your business. So you both need to focus on your business to make it happen. It's a lot of my clients do like this perspective, how I bring them on the path of the business-like relationship. And it does work. It does work. You have to have the willingness to do so, though.
Yeah, it's a whole new way. It's a whole new language, just like you said at the beginning. It's a whole new way of relating
Yes.
to someone. It's so different. So one last question for you, and then I really want to get into the gift that you're offering people. But one of the things I encourage my clients to do is undertake a simple gratitude practice for their former partner. And the reason I do that is because what we focus on expands. And when all you focus on is what they can't do, won't do, or can't become for you, that's the result you get, is a whole lot of looking at what ain't going to be. And I want to get your input on that. I want to know if you think that's a great way to go, or even add to it. What do you think?
Well, I personally think it's not about focusing on the former spouse, because when you focus on the former spouse, it opens the door also on the positive side. It also opens the door to focusing on the negative side. I prefer saying, I would say more, and I tell my clients, acknowledging what the former spouse is doing right for the co-parenting situation dynamic, for your child's well-being. Parents, and by doing that, parents don't feel that they're raising their child alone, and they don't feel that they're not respected. On the contrary, when they're acknowledging what the former spouse, what the other parent is doing, well, they feel that they're respected. They feel that they are important, that they are both important, that their role as parents are both important in their child's life, and they both have this response, and both parents can share the responsibility, the parenting responsibility, and they feel that and naturally, it decreases the destructive behavior by acknowledging what the other parent is involved in doing and taking responsibility for their child. And it promotes better communication between them, and it eases the anxiety for the kids. When the kids can see mom and dad at least starting civilly to start to communicate and acknowledging what dad is doing and mom is doing, they feel less anxious. They don't have to go see a therapist for 6 months or 2 years. God knows, these poor, beautiful human beings, and it gives an example to our children that teamwork can work, even though we're not fond of the other parent, the other person, that it is possible to work. It is possible to create team, to build a team, to work together as a team. And we set the example as well that we need to respect each other, whether we're fond or not fond. It's all about respect. I mean, respect is used all over the world in every aspect in our life, in schools and in work and on the streets, driving, everywhere. So we set the example to our kids about respect. We need to treat each other with respect. So when parents are responsible and are thriving and happy, kids are happy and they are thriving as well. So it's very important.
And I love that word, acknowledge. It feels so accessible and doable. It doesn't require any sort of high emotion to really enter it, right? It's just observations of what you can appreciate that the other person has been trying to contribute.
Yes,
and
because we're all here for our kids. We're not each other's enemies. That's what I tell my parents, my clients. You're not each other's enemies. You're mom and dad.
Right.
And they need mom and dad. Our kids need mom and dad.
Anna, you are just so brilliant and so good at what you do, and so your passion for getting to the simple essence of what matters after divorce is a really beautiful thing, and I'm really grateful that you shared it with everybody today.
Thank
you. Have offered something very generous as a free gift to our summit participants, and there's a link to it in the email that you got today, but why don't you tell them more about it too?
So I give a 30-minute complimentary call, which time I'll introduce my tools, example, strategy, how to uncouple, to create lasting change, strategies on how to use. I create a transition report between parents, how to start communicating with each other, because at the beginning of their divorce and the co-parenting, it's totally chaos. They don't even want to hear the other parent's voice. So I created this transition report that they transition from one week to another week to start getting on the path of co-parenting and to understand really it's about the child. and I provide what information needs to be shared from one parent to the other parent so we can move forward. So everyone in the mix can move forward with their life, could be happy, and live in harmony, because it is about love and harmony. It's all about love and harmony.
I love that. How many people want to sit and listen to Anna talk to them about how to uncouple and how to do a transition report? These are actual real tools that you can put to use right away. So hop on over to Anna's website. You just need to fill in on her link. There's a name and email address, and then the message just right. I'm a part of the Divorce Differently Summit, and she will connect with you. Anna, thank you again for everything you shared today. It was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you again, Andrea. Thank you again for having me, and hope we're going to be out there. We have to be out there to help so many families to move forward into this new family concept.
Absolutely. Thanks again.